this spring, kept that in mind as we were recruiting and building out a roster. So, yes, both play a factor into that, absolutely.
Jake, along those lines, it's not just about speed, but it's about the free flow and that kind of like positionless basketball. That hasn't really been a thing in the Big Ten, but if you get to March, it's important. So how do you expect to manage going through conference with that style to get to where you want to go?
You know, I think the Big Ten is changing too, with the addition of the West Coast teams, and you see, you know, the way some of the teams have even shifted the way they've played within our league the last couple of years. It won't be exclusive to us, but certainly within the back of our minds of the impact of beyond Big Ten basketball, we want to play a style that, one, you know, can be successful in the league, but also be successful beyond the league. And I believe too, as we continue to recruit, you know, high-level players into our program, we want to play a style that helps them grow and develop and get ready for the next level. All that stuff is connected.
One more. Quest Lover said that you're the best shooter on the team. Fact or fiction?
Fact.
No hesitation.
Did you want me to think about that a little bit before I
I
answer?
didn't think you would, but I feel like I had to ask.
I have a reputation to uphold, so that's one of talking a little trash too.
Go on the right, Jim.
Question about one of your freshmen, Colin White. What's he bring to the table, and what are you going to expand in his game?
Yeah, it's been great having Colin in this program. I just love how much he cares about Ohio State. You know, and as a starting point, you feel that in practice. He plays hard every day. He's very coachable. There's an element of toughness to him and winning. You know, that his winning in high school has been well documented. But he shot the ball consistently. He takes care of it. He's got to continue to work on the defensive side. I think that's an adjustment for him, because in high school he may have had to guard bigger guys, and now in college he's having to guard smaller guys at times. So, but I've been really impressed with his, you know, summer and start to the preseason here this fall.
All right, we'll go back to Sam Mill. David.
Jake, you kind of had to hit the ground running when you took over last year, but as you prepare for your first full season, are there still things that you're realizing, like, oh yeah, I have to do that now, or like still like stuff you're learning in this job?
I think there's some on-the-job training that takes place and probably will continue to take place, especially as the landscape continues to change. Thankfully for me, I got a great staff who can help me navigate some of that stuff. And for me, it's always been about making sure I delegate some things so I can continue to focus on our players. It's not to say I am removing myself from other responsibilities, because it certainly comes with the job. But regardless of some of that, I want to make sure that it's not taken away from, you know, me being able to connect and pour into our guys. But yeah, learning stuff as it goes to some degree. But having a guy like Dave Dickerson, who's been a head coach, or Jamal Walker, who's been college basketball for a long time, Joel Justice, like those guys help that. David Egelhoff, who's been at Ohio State for a long time, you know, those guys help me navigate some of that stuff.
And I'm told it's defensive boot camp this week. What does that entail, and how does that eventually lead to you building the identity you want to build when you take the court in about a month?
It is defensive boot camp, and practice plan has been bent heavily towards the defensive side of the ball for us this week. It felt like, you know, as we start getting into game prep over the next couple weeks, we have to solidify our defensive foundation. Our defense can help our offense, so we needed to just shore up some things and spend a little bit more time and focus. You know, we spent a lot of time this summer building our offense, while, you know, alongside that, setting kind of our foundation defensively. But now, as we're getting ready to see different actions and specific things, we have to start, you know, preparing for that.
We'll go here on the left.
Coach, going back to your style of play, John Rossi compared you guys to Alabama the other day. Obviously, Coach Oates, he'll like punish guys in practice for taking certain shots. Has there been any sort of like, hey, don't take that shot, we need to get a better look than that in practice?
You know, I think for me, it's a balance. I want our guys playing with great freedom, being aggressive and confident. We have talented players. I think, you know, as a coach, you have to create space for their talent to just shine through. However, we know efficiency matters. We know that we need to continue to improve, and probably maybe improve is the wrong word, but just evaluate what helps us be more efficient offensively. So some of that is going to be trial and error, I guess, and then using film to evaluate. One of the biggest things for us is, I think making sure we're not too heavily reliant upon jump shots prior to touching the paint, and the difference between a jump shot after the ball touches the paint versus before it touches the paint. So we had a little discussion, film session about that a couple days ago, and to our guys' credit, they responded really well. We had some great offensive possessions that next practice. So I think there's a willingness to grow and to understand what a good shot means for our offense. And we'll continue though to be aggressive. We don't want to take away from the pace we're playing at, but we talk about playing with pace and poise. And we have to be poised while we're playing with that pace. And we're still learning that. Some of that is the fact we have so many new coaches, new players, new system. That's going to take some time. I think that's not something you can just like day one have set. So we're working on that though and mindful of that.
Yeah, so you had 2 bigs leave, but then you brought 2 more bigs in. How can those guys, you said you recruited them with a purpose of running this offense, how can those guys complement that open style and then excel?
Yeah, well, I think we have a great combination of athleticism and skill in our front court. Our biggest issue that we have to answer in the front court is our lack of experience. We're talented, we're versatile. Like we have multiple guys who can play different positions. We could play lineups with great size, but the inexperience is something we got to answer. And the encouraging thing for me is I believe it gives us it makes us unique from the standpoint that there's an aspect of growth that should occur with our team as the season goes on. So as those guys continue to get more experience and reps and consistency, our team should grow, our ceiling should raise as a group, and that's exciting for me. And I think we're starting to see already, certain guys are improving their consistency, but we have multiple guys with size that can step out and shoot it, can guard multiple positions, and it's exciting for a coach to give some opportunity for some creativity.
Stay on the left,
Yeah.
Jeff, and then Patrick.
You were just sort of speaking to this a little bit. I wanted to ask you about depth and how you feel about depth going into this season. And as you recruit, and you talked about roster construction, you got all these roles you need guys to do, and you mix and match and all that. Do you feel more depth this year at all, or is that wait to be seen because there's so many new guys?
I think depth is a strength for this group. I think we have a deep team. It's going to certainly present some challenges as far as finalizing a rotation, but the one thing that we do have is some healthy competition, and that'll be valuable for us. There will be a time here soon where we're going to have to define roles more specifically. Right now, we're giving guys an opportunity to grow and to some degree fail a little bit, figure out what fits them right now. I want to continue. I want this to be a program built on development, certainly where guys can continue to grow their game, but sometimes that might not be the case in game. Maybe something we're working on outside of it till it gets ready, to be used in a game. But depth is a real strength for this team, and again, it provides us with a great deal of versatility. We can play a lot of different types of lineups, whether it's size, speed, interchangeable parts, and that's valuable for us.
Do you feel like you got to have a starting 5 no matter what, or could that change as you go?
I would say right now, today, based on what I've seen in practice, we have a starting 7 or 8. And I know at some point we're gonna have to pick 5 guys to get their name called, but I think for us that we have multiple guys who certainly could start and be successful as starters. And the biggest challenge for me is figuring out probably how we're gonna end games, because we know in this league that it's the deepest league in the country, and you're gonna have to be really good late. And so figuring out how we can put our best group there, and it may be different from game to game, certainly, but starting the game, we have multiple guys I feel comfortable starting the game, and it speaks to our depth. We got to figure out how we're going to close out games too. And that's something we're working on daily and evaluating.
I'll go Patrick, then Connor.
Jake, one of the questions I get talking to people a lot is like, why is this team going to be better than the last couple of years? You know, a young head coach, new faces. So, from what you've seen, where are the steps coming from?
Well, I believe having really good old guards has proven to be helpful in college basketball, and we have a lot of those. You know, if I could say, so that gives you some comfort. You know, as a coach, I think I'm really excited about our front court, but you know, we have to answer the call from a lack of experience, consistent experience standpoint, which I'm confident we will. But I think depth for us is certainly a strength. I think hasn't always been the case, you know, the last few years. But you know, moving forward, we want to make sure that we can, you know, have healthy competition in practice. It's only going to help everybody get better. But yeah, there's a sense of comfort having Bruce Thornton, Michi Johnson, Micah Parrish, and Quez Glover, who I couldn't even tell you how many combined college basketball games those guys have played and won. You know, I think is the other part. So that helps me sleep maybe just a little bit better at night.
And a lot of guys are talking about off the court chemistry, retreats, hanging out with each other, stuff like that. From your experience, just how much of a difference does that make once you really take the court in the games?
I'm a big believer that it matters significantly. And in an attempt to speed up in the on-court chemistry that you need to be successful in college basketball, first mastering that off-the-court side is important. We're intentional about, you know, who we invite into our family, and there's been a natural kind of organic chemistry formed. We've certainly been intentional about creating space and opportunity and activity for that to exist. But our guys have taken ownership of that too, and have been intentional about spending time together outside of the gym. I think it seemed, at least from my perspective, really natural, which gives us a chance to have great chemistry. I think you have to have that chemistry on the court. That's my personal belief. I wish we had, you know, more time to get ready for our first game for that on-court chemistry, and that's not to say that I've been disappointed, or I think our on-court chemistry, all things considered, how many new pieces, new staff, new system, has been pretty good. So especially when you have some older guys coming together, and there's an adjustment that has to take place from each individual to build that on-court chemistry. And our guys have embraced that and have been really good with it so far. So I don't anticipate it being an issue at all. I just wish we had more time, because that's only going to get better as time goes on and we get more experience together.
Connor.
Do you mind talking about the process of getting Valpo on the schedule this summer when you were putting the schedule together, and how meaningful that's going to be for you to have those two programs that I'm assuming are both very important to you playing here in December?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. You know, Roger Powell's a friend, a close friend of mine, and I don't think I immediately went into the offseason saying we got to get Valpo on the schedule. I think it happened organically. He was looking for games, we were looking for games, and it was like, hey, let's see if the dates make sense. It wasn't one of our first games we locked in, and when you start to get down to the end of putting a schedule together, dates become so important, and so it aligned that we were able to do this. But I am excited about. I hope they win every game but one. You know, next year. And I think Roger's going to do a really good job. I think he's got some good pieces coming back, and you know, I follow that program closely for the obvious reasons. But you know, it'll be a weird feeling probably before the game, and then once that ball's thrown up, be back to normal.
Timmy.
Jake, your own shooting prowess aside, we had an open practice a couple weeks back, and you personally were going hard in the practice. Were you just doing that because the cameras were in there, or is that an everyday type of thing?
You want to ask Bruce over there? If no.
Yeah.
I think as we're trying to establish a pace, an intensity, a passion, a work, and energy, I think it's the leader's responsible to, demonstrate that on a daily basis. I have to be consistent with that. Some of it is too, my coaching style is all about relationships. And when I went through that process last year, it was almost like again, another form of validation. I always thought, man, if I become a head coach, relationships are going to be so important. But I think part of the reason we were able to finish the way we did was because of the relationships that I have with guys. So I didn't want, because I became a head coach, I didn't want to just change up who I was. And for me, it's being hands-on in practice. It's bringing great energy. It's all of those things you saw. It's kind of who I am. And I've spoken publicly about this. Some of the best advice I got when I became a head coach was be yourself. And so I've really tried to stay true to that. And yeah, if you come to practice tomorrow, you'll see kind of the same stuff.
It seemed like guys noticed that, and I didn't know if you had a coach, whether it was your dad or somebody that you looked up to in the past that was more of a get out there and practice with the guys. Seems like there's just a natural respect level that heightens when that goes on.
Well, I can't get out and fully practice anymore. I am sticking to half court and really not so much live play like I used to. I like this idea that I'm a good player and keeping that kind of in their minds. I don't want to go prove them wrong. So we try to set a little bit of boundary as to just how far we go in practice. But I think as far as drills go and being able to, be in there with them, and I think they know that's who I am. I think they know that the guys who have been here know that's how I was, before, and I hope I can keep that up for as long as I'm a head coach. My dad certainly showed me at a young age the value of passion, energy, and building relationships with guys. I mean, my dad's still close with guys he coached back around the time I was born. So I hope to have those same type of relationships long after, our guys leave this program, hopefully have long professional careers that, they'll remember those moments we had together, so that relationship is really strong.